What's good, y'all? Alola. I'm super hyped to get into the 3 starter Pokemon that you're going to be picking from in this hack. If you're a new viewer and you're just clicking on this video, or if you just are not familiar with my work, this is a ROM hack where every single Pokemon is massively buffed, extensively. All right, every single Pokemon, and all Pokemon are balanced to have 2 great abilities that they can switch between using an infinite use ability capsule that your starter will actually come holding. So all 3 of the Alola starters are. Actually, that's a lie. I was going to say they're all pretty cool, but I actually really dislike Incineroar and Primarina. No hate. I'm not going to hate on them. And of course, their buffs are still going to be really equal and awesome, and all 3 of them are very great choices. But Decidueye is definitely my favorite of the 3. So, yeah, that's just my opinion. But Decidueye, awesome buffs. Decidueye was also probably by far the worst of the 3, at least in my opinion. In-game, you could argue it's the worst, and then obviously in competitive is probably the worst. But competitive, this hack is not balanced for competitive play. It's balanced for in-game use. That's why all Pokemon get all this crazy stuff. That in-game, it's balanced because everything has access to that, and you get to do fun Nuzlocks and whatnot, and it'll be challenging. But yeah, Decidueye, awesome abilities and Tinted into Technician. The pre-evolutions have Technician as well, and they have all kinds of Technician boosted moves. You can find all of those on the Google Sheet in the description. If you're just clicking on this video to watch it in the background, or you just like using these videos to understand the Pokemon buffs, that's great, and I appreciate you watching. But please make sure that you don't let my work on the Google Sheets go to waste. Check those out, because I buffed and changed 600 plus moves in this hack, and there are 130 plus custom brand new moves, and you should definitely give those a look. All right, really important to understand how the Pokemon function now. I'm going to briefly touch on Tinted Lens, touch on the stats, and then most of the video will be me just going over all of the sheer Technician options that they have, because they have so many. So Decidueye, Tinted Lens, very fitting ability, obviously. I mean, stuff like Noctowl has it, and kind of gives me the same vibe. He's the sniper, he's known for his vision, he's a ghost type, so I think Tinted Lens fits very well, and it's a good complement to Technician, because his Technician move pool is absolutely incredible, while Tinted Lens means you can use higher base power moves and also not have to run any coverage. His coverage is pretty good. Both Technician and non-Technician boosted moves are really good for coverage that you have, but Tinted Lens is still, at the end of the day, Tinted Lens, great ability. You can switch to that pretty easily. You have very powerful stab moves like Seed Flare, Frenzy Plant, and Leaf Storm, and Spectral Beam, all of which are like Draco Meteor / Leaf Storm variants. Not Seed Flare, at least, but you understand what I'm saying. And then you just have other powerful stab moves. You got great coverage. It's just got all types of fun stuff. Even just simple, like, Spec Shadow Ball is very strong in game versus a lot of trainers with Tinted Lens. You have U-Turn and Parting Shot for utility. In general, you have awesome utility, but I'll get into that later in the video. But all Pokemon in this hack have great utility moves that they can use to, bypass things in Nuzlocke, because this is not, like I said, it's not competitive playing. Like, a lot of stat dropping moves are really important to have in game, because the AI doesn't know how to switch out, and you're going to need a lot of utility stuff like that. You have reliable recovery and roost that you can reteach via TM whenever you want. You got Feather Dance, Feather Ball, Leech Seed, all that's great for early game especially, so definitely take advantage of those. But yeah, I'm just gonna stop talking about Tinted Lens for now, but what I will say is that Tinted Lens allows you to run other moves without having to run coverage as much. So you can run like Strength Sap plus Stab move plus Setup move, although Setup honestly is not that great in this hack. Grass and Ghost type is now weak to Aggressive Ghost type is now weak to oh my God, what am I trying to say? Bug. It's weak to Bug now. All right, so First Impression, one of the most common offensive priority moves in the game, is going to get on Decidueye. You got to switch out. You can't even protect versus First Impression anymore. You got to switch out. So that'll definitely keep him in check. But in general, he's the GOAT, and you can always just switch right back in. Or you could technically take one with a Tango Berry, depending on what's using it on you. But your bulk is not the best. I mean, it wasn't the best to begin with, but I did have to decrease it for the base stat total, because all the starters are following the same base stat total trend of 320, 435, 550. And I wanted him to be fast, because I think he should be super fast, looking at his design and his whole Archer theme. And speed is a lot more important than bulk for a Pokemon like this. You have other bulky Grass Ghost types if you want to use those. And it's not like he's completely frail. I mean, with Strength Sap, you can definitely take some physical hits. And he has stuff like Parting Shot and Feather Dance and Roost and stuff. So, yeah. And Dartrix is bulky for that point. Dartrix, despite losing HP, is still bulky for that point in the game, especially with its move pool and its useful resistances as a Grass Flying type. But yeah, Grass Ghost. Decidueye is more about... I would say Decidueye is the most offensive of the 3 starters. Not that it's objectively the strongest in terms of power, but like in terms of its stat distribution, it's by far the most offensive, because it's the frailest of the 3. So yeah, I did have to decrease the Sped F just to give it more speed. 110 offenses with Tinted Lens and Technician are great. So I'll talk about Technician now. Great. It's a great option from when you first get Rowlet as your starter until Decidueye. It makes up for Rowlet and Dartrix's seemingly underwhelming stats. They're not actually underwhelming, but you might think that they are. So Technician, makes those awesome. You have priority moves of all different sorts, but what I will say, the star of the show here with Technician is Spirit Shackle. We have that at level 40, and with Spirit Shackle, that is a 60 base power move. So basically, it's the same thing I did with First Impression. If you know what I did with that, it's the same exact thing. It's 60 base power, so it's boosted by Technician, but it always crits, so it's effectively 135 base power with Technician. And then if you're running Tinted Lens, it's just a good 90 base power, reliable physical ghost move that is stronger than Shadow Ball by 5 points, and also the same power as Spectral Thief. And actually, I think it may be 5 points weaker than Spectral Thief, but definitely still worth running over Spectral Thief. Spectral Thief in general isn't that great. It's only good for totems mostly. The main use of Spectral Thief in game is just as a strong, not 2-turn move ghost stab that's physical. It's not to literally steal stat boost, because like I said, this is not balanced around competitive. Excuse me, that's why all physical ghosts have it. But yeah, God, they have so much things to cover. It's going to take forever. Technician, Spirit Shackle, that's the main star of the show here. First Impression is also an option via TM, but you have a bunch of great priority moves in Spook, Shadow Sneak, Leaf Flurry, Seed Shot, and then early game you also have Gust and Aerial Ace, which are stab. All of those are priority moves now. Great Technician boosted priority moves. You also have Bullet Seed and Fury Pex being stab on Dartrix for 5 levels, and then it's just solid coverage. You also have Pin Missile, so those are 3 great moves with Technician. Bullet Seed especially is definitely something I would keep if you're running a physical set. All Pokemon, not only can they switch between their abilities infinitely with an infinite usability capsule, you can also switch your EVs around infinitely with infinite EV training items. So you can run a physical set for 1 fight and a special set for 1 fight. The Decidueye, like all Pokemon in attack, does have 4 move slot syndrome, but that's something you just got to be smart with juggling your moves around. That adds to the challenge of the hack. Otherwise, it'd be way too easy if you just had infinite relearner. I mean, I wouldn't say it would be easier for experienced players who can just teach the right move and cheese the situation. But because of the fact that you don't have that, you have to be more careful with the moves that you do teach via level up in TM and tutor. But yeah, Technician boosted moves. So early game, you have Razor Leaf 90 base power, Air Cutter 90 base power, Magical Leaf 90 base power, and Magical Leaf also gives you +1 special defense. Mega Drain 90 base power, and Mega Drain is actually going to heal you more than Giga Drain. Mega Drain heals you by 75%, so that works great with Technician. That's definitely something you can keep the whole game if you're running Technician the whole game, but you're going to be swapping a Tinted Lens once you get Decidueye. Rowlet and Dartrix Overgrowl is not the most useful, but you could make some use of it with stronger base power grass moves and an Endure set with a Pinchberry. Those could be pretty good, like Giga Drain, for example. Giga Drain, Overgrow, Pinchberry, so like Papaya Berry or something could be pretty solid for certain boss fights early game. But in general, it's one of those cases where, like, for soul reasons, I just give all the baby starters the Blaze abilities. And usually they're actually pretty good, but I would say Technician outclasses Overgrow in like 80% of cases, and in this case, kind of sad, but it is what it is. Yeah, so then you have Aerial Ace. I'm just going to go over them in order. Fury Pex, Bullet Seed, Shadow Sneak, Spook. Finishing Blow is technically also Technician boosted. That is roughly 80 base power of Technician, and that will give you +3 attack. If you knock the opponent out, you have Dual Wing Beat, which is 45 base power per hit normally. So with Technician, that's 135 base power overall. Very strong coverage move with Technician. And then you have a bunch of great tutor moves and TM moves. So Covet, Fairy type, 90 base power with Technician. Knockoff, that's always 90 base power with Technician now. That's good coverage on Dartrix, especially. Has a dark type move for certain fights. Steel Wing, that gives you +1 defense, and Magical Leaf gives you +1 special defense. Obviously, Magical Leaf is stab, but Steel Wing is reteachable, so that's a nice little utility move that you can use for certain fights, especially early game. You can get that nice defense boost going, and it's good coverage, or solid coverage, at least. Acrobatics is technically also Technician boosted. Without an item, it won't be, but with an item, it'll be 83.5 base power. I did put that back to 110 base power, by the way. It was 50 base power for a while, making it 100, but I changed it back. First Impression I already covered, but that's great. And then that's really about it. Oh, Icy Wind. Icy Wind is also a cool Technician move that Decidueye can cheese or tack on for certain boss fights to hit a specific Pokemon. Again, a lot of these options are situational, but it's still nice to have the coverage moves nonetheless, especially when you have Tinted Lens. Like, you don't need coverage, but it's still cool to have. Even stuff like Low Kick and Grass Knot is technically Technician boosted. Oh, Ominous Wind. Oh, that's a big one. I didn't cover that. Ominous Wind, Technician boosted. That will always drop the attack and special attack by 1, same that Feather Ball does, but that's 60 base power, while Feather Ball is 70. So Ominous Wind on Technician, Decidueye is actually a great utility move because it's stronger than Shadow Ball, and it will, drop the opponent's attacking stats. That's great for, like I said, in-game stuff, which is what this hack is balanced around. Other good utility stuff, you got Will-O-Wisp, Strength Stab, Grass Whistle, Conjure for setup, that gives you +1 defense, +1 special attack. setup, like I said, is not the best, especially on a Pokemon that's frail and weak to first impression. Like, you're going to be forced out anyways. I wouldn't even bother setting up personally, but you can still cheese it. You can still, like, you can bait the first impression user in, switch into your answer, kill the first impression mon, and now you can set up on like the third Pokemon and you can get like a half sweep, but you won't be able to 6-0 trainers anymore. That's not going to be feasible for 90% of cases. Honestly, I think I'll just leave the video off there. You have the Spectrify, level 60 for an Omni boosting move, which lots of Pokemon get, and like I said, not that crazy when you consider the crit moves that will bypass your boosts and the priority moves that every Pokemon has that will outspeed your really fast Pokemon and all that stuff. But in general, great utility. You got dual screens, taunt, parting shot, roost, trick, like all types of really fun stuff that you can use in game to combat the AI. I think this is not looping, so actually I'll just leave the video off there. Honestly, I'm pretty sure I covered everything. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you think. For those of you who wanted special defensive Decidueye, I don't know what to tell you. He's much cooler as a mixed attacker, and he needs the speed, especially in a hack like this where the speed tiers are much higher. You might think, in like a vanilla hack where like if I were to just teleport this buff into real games, he would probably only need like 100 base speed, to be honest. And yeah, you could have a little bit more spadef, but even that feels kind of pointless. But yeah, the GOAT. Love Decidueye, super cool Pokemon. Probably my favorite of the 3 starters, like I said. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you check out those Google Sheets, and I'll be back for the other Alola starters coming up. See ya.